Today's show brought to you in part by our friends at Old Smoke Clothing. They make our In the Money t-shirts. We got a bunch of them now. We got the Chalk Eating Weasel. We got the One Time. We got I'm Alive in the Pick 5. We've got I Won and So Did They that comes with a baked-in donation to our friends at the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation. And we've got my favorite, Degenerate Horse Player. I'm wearing it right here. You love the D and the G in there. People think it's Dolce & Gabbana. No. Degenerate Horse Player. Make no mistake, inthemoneypodcast.com/Old Smoke. You can support us by buying our merch. We would appreciate it. And you look cool, too. Oh, and by the way, when you're over at oldsmokeclothing.com, you can go to /JK and look at his collection. Some fresh stuff over there as well. Shout out to our friends at oldsmokeclothing.com. Hello and welcome to the In the Money Players Podcast. This is our show for the races of Saturday, September 11th. Little bit different. No NYRA this weekend, and we're not really covering California on this show either, but we do have a lot of action for you. We're going to start off with two different perspectives on Kentucky Downs on their loaded Saturday card, including the turf sprint of the year, as far as I'm concerned. Sometimes we say it's a grade 1 in name only. This is a grade 1 only, not in name. It's a grade 3, but just a loaded race. We'll be talking about that with Jack Jenkins and also Howard Kravets. Then we're going to have Drew Coatney in to talk about what else? Woodbine, that he covers so well at InTheMoneyPodcast.com, and Scotty McKeever from Equinedge will be here for that as well. Looking forward to that. And then something totally different that I'm really looking forward to, a 3-person panel to talk about all 5 of the Win and You're In races in Ireland this weekend. Start your Breeders' Cup work on these Euros now by paying attention to these 5 Win and You're In races, including this incredible edition of the Champions Stakes. We're going to have Michael Adolphson on here, Alex Sausville, and Naomi Tucker to speak about those, and we'll get to it all right after this. Quick shout out about some contest action happening Saturday and Sunday at Kentucky Downs. You can play online in this final of the 3 two-day handicapping contest. Terrific racing. Get involved with this Kentucky Downs Turf Handicapping Challenge before it's too late. $1,200 contest Saturday and Sunday. To take a look at the entry form, you can go directly to our pretty link, inthemoneypodcast.com/King Turf. That's inthemoneypodcast.com/King Turf. And that's not all. We've got another pretty link for you with important information. If you go to inthemoneypodcast.com/CBY, this is information about the Big Ten BCBC handicapping contest out at Canterbury. This one is happening Thursday, September 16th. You can play at Canterbury through ExpressBet, TVG, or NYRA Bets, where that is permitted. You got 10 BCBC entries, 2 NHC entries, $10,000 in cash. Real chance this is going to end up being a positive expectation for players. Folks really want to pay attention to this. $3,000 buy-in, $2,000 live bank, $1,000 entry fee. To learn more about it, to get all the details, go to inthemoneypodcast.com/CBY. That's inthemoneypodcast.com/CBY. Next up on the show, very happy to be joined by one of the folks who's been doing a great job throughout this meet, helping us cover Kentucky Downs. This meet, unlike any other, it spends this time in September as the premier signal in the country. I'm speaking of a big fan of Kentucky Downs, Jack Jenkins. Jack, how are things?
Oh, great, Pete. How are you this morning?
I'm good. How's your meet going so far?
Well, I've had one really nice day, and the rest have been a little disappointing, but still got the head above water and looking forward to the last 2 days and another ExpressBet contest. So still yet time.
You'll be taking a shot at the ExpressBet contest again. Of course, you probably have heard at this point in the show an ad for it. But yeah, one more chance for folks to get involved here.
Exactly.
And I was surprised looking at yesterday. We were covering on Horse Player Happy Hour. You know, I went into this meet, my memory of it being a lot more big prices. I couldn't believe how well the favorites ran yesterday. Is that typical of this meet in your experience, or a bit of an anomaly that we're seeing some shorter prices this time around?
I mean, you know, There was a couple smaller fields yesterday, and the bigger connections, they're bringing in some really nice horses. So, they're taking, a lot of but earlier in the meet, there's been some wild stuff at least hit the board. And there's been a couple, bomb winners, and there's been a couple bombs getting ran down, in the last couple jumps. So there's definitely been some prices. And even, Kentucky Downs is so good. You can put two very logical favorites together, and you're still a lot of times going to get a $40 exacta.
Yeah, we saw one yesterday that was amazing in the race with Hendry Woods and Sweet Melania coming back. Yeah. $24 for one with two horses that, Sweet Melania required a little creativity, but the other horse had to be there, and Sweet Melania is certainly logical to run second. Anyway, you make good points. Even when there's favorites, that doesn't mean that there isn't value necessarily.
Exactly. There's still a lot of value if you can manage to get the trifecta in the right order and hit that. Most of the time you're going to get paid.
We're going to do something a little different. We're going to run through. It's a little weird. You could maybe blame a host fail in my machinations to try to put the show together. I booked our Kentucky Downs guests at separate times. So we're going to roll through this pick 5 twice. We're going to start off with you. As I notice my computer is about to run out of battery. This was a wrinkle I was not expecting, especially because I'm having trouble finding the cord, but I got it now. Let's start off with race number 7, the beginning of this pick 5 with its 14% takeout. It's the Kentucky Downs Ladies Turf, 3 and up fillies and mares, mile on the turf at the grade 3 level. Sounded like you thought you might be able to lock this one up.
Yeah, I think the number 2 for Mike stood on Princess Grace. I think she's going to be a pretty solid favorite. She's a half length away from being undefeated. She's coming off a win in the Yellow Ribbon at Del Mar. Third off the layoff. She looks like a legit favorite here with Florent Giroux, who's having a bit of a tough meet. But she's never run at Kentucky Downs, and there's quite a few others in here that have some experience and wins over the course, and I'm going to be looking to one of those to try to beat her with a number 9, Delica for Al Stahl and the very hot Joel Rosario.
Well, you will keep the 2 in the mix, though. You
Exactly.
want to get 9 too.
Yeah, I'm not going to let her beat me out of the late pick 5, but I will maybe try to press up the 9 here.
Let's move on to this loaded 8th race. I mean, so much talent in this turf sprint going 6 furlongs, a grade 3 again, but a race that came up like a grade 1, and I think is probably going to have implications for a race like the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. How are you going to approach this one?
I mean, this is really the race of the meet. I mean, this field is just absolutely loaded. I don't think the Breeders' Cup Sprint, Turf Sprint, rather, will probably have the depth that this race has. The thing that stood out to me about this race is, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure I'm right on this, this is the only race of the meet that's going to be ran at a flat 6 furlongs. And when you take a look at Kentucky Downs, years ago they used to run quite a few 6 furlong races. They start right at the top of the hill. Now they run a ton of races at 6.5, where the first half furlong they run uphill. But when they start right at the top of the hill, I found that going years back, speed is extremely tough. I mean, it is really hard to close at that flat 6 furlong distance. And when you get to looking and handicapping this field, as much class and talent as there is, there's really not a lot of early speed at all. You can. It may really come down to, which jockey decides to really hustle out of the gate. I'm hoping that's going to be the number 4 gear jockey with Rusty Arnold, who's really found new life cutting back in distance and being a turf sprinter. I'm hoping from that sort of inside post that he's going to be aggressive with Jose Lezcano coming in town to ride. And that's who I'm really going to try to key on here.
the way you describe the race makes me think that Bombard could be particularly dangerous. I have him coming out best on pace figures, and you've got Flavian Pratt in the irons, who's not afraid to be aggressive. What do you think of his chances in the spot? Are there any other numbers you want me to?
I think the three's for sure a pace player. The horse hasn't ran since the end of May at Santa Anita. But Flavian Pratt, he's one of the top elite jockeys in the game. You got to think he's gonna read the form and realize he's probably the speed. The horse coming off 2-6 furlong works. I don't know. Maybe he will be sharp off the bench. So we'll see. But I think the number 4 is going to offer some value. There's this, but a horse like Fast Boat, there's no way Fast Boat's going to be 10-1 in this race. The horse was so impressive last time. He was 11-1 last time, so what I know he may be. But I think Rosario's going to take a lot of money with him. There's just a lot of horses in here like Casa Creed, coming out of mile races that it's going to take a lot of money, and they're going to have to do a lot of running late in this race.
In terms of your official setup, you just want me to list the 4 for you, or you want me to put anything to come with it?
Yeah, I think, you got to use the 2, and then the number 12 from the far outside with Rod Ortiz, Imprimus. That horse has been one of the top turf sprinters. He looks like he's a 7-year-old gelding now. He's had a lot of excuses. He really didn't have much of an excuse last time, but he still
off maybe. That's what I was thinking is maybe it was a little bit more of a get the season started kind of thing. Yeah. I thought he might step up on a course that he clearly does enjoy. Yeah,
he has a win over the course, so that can't be discounted whatsoever. I think you have him, but I'm looking to fade. My main opinion of the race, I'm looking to fade the number 7 Casa Creed at 7-2 Morning Line, and the number 9 Got Stormy, who I really made out well with. She kind of made my Saratoga meet in her last race, winning the 4-star Dave at 12.5-1. Kind of think they're running her in the wrong spot. They probably should have ran her in the first race we covered, the 7th race, in my opinion, but they didn't ask me. So
let's quickly roll through these last 3 races, Jack, as we're running a little bit short on time. Race number 9 is pretty darn interesting. This is your Grade 2 Calumet Turf Cup going 1.5 miles. We spoke off air about this. You saw it as a bit more of a spread race. Who are some of the numbers you'd want on your tickets?
Yeah, the Mike Maker Invitational. I think he has 5 and trying to get a 6 in here. Mike can definitely win here. I think the number 8 Journey to Freedom and number 9 Glen County would be the top 2 Mike Makers for me. But my 2 A's will be the number 3 Channel Cat, who ran one of the more amazing races of the year, winning the Man of War, setting just a suicidal pace and holding off Guffaw that back for May the 8th at Belmont. He set another solid pace last time off a brief shortening. He looks like the controlling speeding here, and the number 5 Arklow for Brad Cox, who's having another great Kentucky Downs meet. They shipped him out to Del Mar last time. He really didn't have much of a trip in there. Was really far back the entire way. So maybe the best speed and the best closer with the number 3 and the number 5 Channel Cat and Arklow.
More stakes action in race number 10, the Grade 2 Franklin Simpson, 6.5 for 3-year-olds with 600,000 in the pot. What do you want to do here?
This race I kind of struggled with, and I probably have a lot more work to do and replays to watch. I didn't have a huge opinion. Nothing really jumped off at me. The number 10, the Morning Line favorite, Point Me By, but for Eddie Keneally and Luis Saez is coming off of a Grade 1 win. That race was kind of a Grade 1 in name only at Arlington last time. The number 7 for Bill Mott, Annex, ran really well. Looks like he's kind of rounding back into form. I think he might be okay on the cutback in distance. So I think that horse is the one that kind of stood out to me. He had such an impressive start to his career, winning his first 3 races at Gulfstream Park, and I was really a fan of just the physical presence. Just a really good looking colt by constitution. So I kind of like him. I think he might take to the course with a nice draw.
Will you fade Point Me By or leave it in as more of a backup?
He drew perfectly. He looks to set a nice stalking trip under Saez. I don't know if I'm going to fade him. Like I said, this race just I don't have a huge opinion in here.
I'll note that, and I'll list the 7 and the 10 as the ones that you're
I'm
interested
not going to
in.
be talking anyone off a price horse if they might like, this race. West Ward has a couple of speeds in here, so those must be respected.
All right, maybe we'll throw those in as well, just to give the impression of it being a spread race. That would be the number 1 and 6 as well as potential backups for Jack there. Let's move on to our last race we're going to talk about in this segment, race number 11. You have a strong opinion in here, it sounded like.
Yeah, I really like the number 10, Seal Beach. He's a little bit of a Captain Obvious pick here. He ran really well first time out for Mike Maker, who's had a great year with 2-year-olds. His 2-year-olds have been running so good. And this horse has just, caught 2 tough fields up at Saratoga. He's by a midshipman who I really like getting the turf. He ran into just a buzzsaw last time in My Prankster, 10-length winner for Todd Pletcher. And I like him drawn outside. I rode Ortiz. Mike Maker, he's not had the meet he wanted at Kentucky Downs. He's had a couple or 3 or 4 tough luck seconds, but I think he may close out the meet with a win here with Seal Beach.
Great stuff, Jack. Thank you so much. We're going to move right on to our next guest for Kentucky Downs.
All right, thanks, Pete.
So we're doing this a little differently today. Schedules mixed up. I'm sure there was a host fail in there somewhere, but we got Jack and Howard at different times. You've heard Jack's thoughts on this pick 5 sequence, but now we're going to bring in another perspective, and it's a guy who's been doing some great work on Kentucky Downs, including on his own YouTube channel with our very own Matt Bernier last night. If you want to get more, you can make sure to go over to Howard's Horse Handicapping on YouTube, and we'll let him tell you a bit more about what he's got going on over there. But I'm speaking to a newer member of the In the Money team, been doing some great work for us in various media. Howard Kravets, how are things?
I'm doing great, PTF. Great to be with you once again.
Now, you've absolutely missed a trick here with this lovely whiteboard behind you that you could have written all manner of interesting things on, and instead it's just white. So next time we record from this location, you got to get on that.
Absolutely. Well, we'll put all sorts of great info up there, including my website. And actually, you can see on the tag, you can see my Twitter handle. But we'll put all sorts of tips. We'll put race flow. I'll draw a picture of the racetrack. It'll be a lot of fun.
I want to see a picture of a horse. I want to see if you can pull that one off.
That I'm going to have to get someone to do that for me. I am the worst artist in the world.
At H Kravets is the Twitter handle for those who are listening to this in its traditional podcast form, as opposed to joining us on our YouTube channel, which, oh, by the way, people should go to and rate, review, and subscribe and do all that stuff that you're supposed to do. And then go over to Howard's page and do the exact same thing. Kentucky Downs, stakes action. We talked about this contest that's going to be going down on this card. We're not going to do all the stakes. We're just going to start in race number 7 on this card. And we've got, as we introduced it before, this is the Kentucky Downs ladies turf. How do you see this one, Howard?
Yeah, by the way, my YouTube channel, HHH Racing Network. Check that out, HHH Racing Network. First of all, I thought this pick 5 was very tough, Pete, in general. I like the 3 abscond here for Keneally and Flavian Pratt. He's been facing some tough horses, grade 2s, grade 1s, just missed the blowout 3 starts back. Ran very well at Woodbine last time against Jolie Olympica. I like the inside post here. Flavian's going to save some ground. She's a bit inconsistent, but I think she has a big shot in this field to possibly upset the likely favorite, number 2, Princess Grace.
Yeah, Jack made the case for Princess Grace as more of a backup and went with Delika, but I could see your point about Abscond getting the right kind of trip in this spot. Let's move on to this race that I just can't praise enough how exciting I think it is, this turf sprint that goes as race number 8. Where did you land?
Very, very, very difficult turf sprint, full field. They're going uphill, downhill, side hill, 12-horse field. To me, that spells a situation where I'm not going to take a favorite just because there's so many variables here. I'm very interested in the number 4, a gear jockey for Rusty Arnold and Jose Lezcano. Since this horse has turned back to sprinting, he's been fantastic. Lost a fast boat last time in the Troy at Saratoga. I think 6.5 is going to hit this horse right between his eyes. If he gets any kind of pace set up and trip, he's got a big shot. I'm sort of looking for fresh faces in this division. This is a lightly raced 4-year-old PTF that I think has a big shot to upset the likely, the horses that are going to take the most money. Casa Creed, who is the horse to beat, can absolutely win. But I have no interest in betting that horse at somewhere around 5-2, 3-1. And then Got Stormy also can win. But I thought this was a bit of an interesting spot because Cassie is pointing Got Stormy, to the Breeders' Cup Turf Mile, and they're cutting back here. The horse does like the track, has won at Kentucky Downs before. It can certainly get the job done. But I'm looking at a little more of a price just because I think in general these horses are fairly closely matched. And again, it's a big field. So I'm going to go with Gear Jockey on top.
Very sensible. Jack's top pick as well, and one that I see. I can't get off the Imprimis train myself, but I'm very interested in Gear Jockey as a potential alternative. Race 9, Calumet Turf Cup Stakes. Who's your idea of the winner?
So again, I thought you could go several ways in here. I like Channel Cat, the number 3. I'm hoping, and I know this has been talked about on your show quite a bit on the Horse Player Happy Hour with Matt Bernier. I know Jonathan Kitchens talked about this. This I'm referring to is when you have a speed horse, just go. Don't rate, don't get cute. I'm hoping that Channel Cat is just sent aggressively and tries to open it up, goes, 24, 47, and just tries to wire the field. I'm concerned that the number 4, Tie to the Sea, is going to put pressure on him, and that could open it up for a closer. But my top choice would be Channel Cat. I do want to throw 2 price horses underneath that I think be very interesting. The one, Emperador, who ran very good last time against Tribuvon. Now, was that just an aberration, or is the horse getting better? I'll leave that for the better to decide, but he's 15-1 morning line. If he can run the same race he ran last time, there's no reason, Pete, that he can't win this race. Another horse I want to bring up, and Matt Bernier brought this up on my show as well, is number 9, Glen County, a horse that for Michael Maker, who's got, 8 in here in this race. Glen County, I saw in person at Arlington when I was there for Million Day, ran very well into a glacial pace in that race, closed into a slow pace. Actually, the last 2 races, PTF, he's had slow paces. If there's some pace, you got to like this 4-year-old. Improving Glen County would be another price shot along with Emperador. But I'm going with my top choice, number 3, Channel Cat.
So, 3, 1, and 9 for Howard there. Moving on to race number 10. This is one that Jack really struggled with, and he was very forthright about that, the Grade 2 Franklin Simpson Stakes. Did you have a strong opinion?
Not really. I thought the Euros, and I'm not using them on top, but I would be very interested to see how the number 2 Learjet, number 5 Miss Amulet, run in this race because they're obviously well intended for this spot. And with the undulations, you'd have to think that of all the horses that have experience in this race, other than the ones that, of course, are on Kentucky Downs, the Euros train over hills and whatnot. So that would just give them a little bit of an advantage right out. I like Annex. I think he's been exposed a little bit recently, but he was very good earlier this year, ran great last time against Public Sector. I'm not worried about the cutback, PTF. I think Junior Alvarado and Bill Mott will have this horse in the right spot. It's a wide open field. He's in fine form. I think he absolutely has a chance. I'm a little bit against the 10 Point Me By. I tried to beat the 10 at Arlington because he was the favorite. Of course, he got a perfect trip and won at about 9-5. But again, similar to some others in here in other races, Pete, he doesn't have to win. It's a big field. So I'm going to go with Annex as my top choice. But again, it's wide open. I would use the Euros possibly underneath in exactas and trifectas to spice up your bet.
We're the same here. How many times do I talk about turf form shipping west? We don't need to do that. But, when you're getting double digit figures, that's a time to include on that angle. And I do think Annex just looks like one who should be suited towards today's test. Let's move on to some non-stakes action. 2-year-old maidens going a mile on the turf. Jack and I were in the same place here with Seal Beach, a horse that I'm still chasing off that trip on debut, and I thought was a little bit interesting getting onto the green. Very curious what you came up with.
Yeah, I have Seal Beach as a B horse in my ABC ticket. This is a very tough race. I mean, as if this pick 5 wasn't difficult enough, we're closing out with maiden special babies, going a mile here. I'm interested in the Wesley Warders number 7 Tuskegee Cat. Giroux gets the mount. I like the fact that Ward started this horse out, in one of the earlier 2-year-old turf races at Churchill. Ran perfectly fine. I think the stretch out is going to work very well for this colt. He's by Air Force Blue out of a Stormcat mare. No reason why this horse can't get more distance. Has been given some time to develop, and I think has a big shot in this race. The one thing I don't like about the 7 Tuskegee Cat is that he was only 9-1 in the first start. And usually when the Wesley Wards are very live and very good, they're well bet. And this horse was not. So I would admit that that's a bit of a concern. But again, aren't you going to get a very good price on this horse in an absolutely wide open field? Wesley Ward, Giroux, 8-1-ish. I'll take that on top.
Who else were you going to use in your matrix?
Yeah, I think number 2, I believe it's Baj for Safi Joseph, who, as anyone knows, has been sort of ice cold lately, but gets Tyler Gaffleone, was in a good enough maiden special weight race at Saratoga, showed early speed, which I always think is a good aspect to have here because the weather's going to be great. I'm sure you touched on this with Jack. And when that turf course gets firm, speed can play very well, going really any distance. So I'm interested in Baj as well as an A horse. And then Close Knit, the one who ran pretty well for Vicky Oliver, who doesn't do as well first time out. Second time starter, again on the inside for Bejarano. Ran well at Ellis Park. I got 2-7 on my A line, 1, 6, 9, 10 on my B line.
All right, good stuff. 7 and 2, hopefully on most of your tickets to close things out. Actually, Howard, before you go, I did want you to talk a little bit more. We heard the ad earlier in the show for this Canterbury contest on Thursday night. I think we should do some special coverage for it. You've been covering Canterbury over at InTheMoneyPodcast.com. You interested? Maybe you, me, and Eric Bialik can get together and do a show covering some of the good racing that's going to be happening.
Yeah, that'd be great. I actually met Eric up at Canterbury, my only trip there this year. Great people. So on Thursday, they have a $3,000 buy-in BCBC Big Ten Challenge. There's BCBC seats, NHC seats. It's going to be a fantastic day of racing. It's actually their closing day, Pete. I cover Canterbury Park on the In the Money blog, which was usually on Sundays, but this is their last week. They're not racing this Sunday coming up to the NFL starting. But again, next week's their last week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They've had great cards all year long. I've been covering Canterbury Park on the blog. 35%, by the way, on the win end, if I may just plug that. I've had some good success there with some price shots as well. As you know, on Twitter, I've been sending some of those out. But anyway, the contest is Thursday, $3,000 buy-in. So look forward for that video with you and Eric Tyler to talk about the card. It'll be fantastic.
I've never sneezed on air before. I don't take it personally. I have no idea what I even used the theater trick of like putting the tongue on the roof of the anyway. The things you learn when you watch the In the Money Players podcast. I'm excited to do that show with you. I've been really enjoying your coverage of Canterbury. It's great to see them. I think they're being rewarded for the various horse player friendly initiatives. And I'll tell you what, non-zero chance this Thursday contest with what's guaranteed in this prize pool is going to be a positive player's expectation. People should get involved. $3,000 well spent. Great opportunity to qualify for my favorite contest of all, the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge. Again, we have a pretty link up on the site for those looking to get involved in themoneypodcast.com/CBY. Thank you, Howard. We will see you a little bit later this week.
Terrific. Thanks, PT. I appreciate it.
Today's show and this next segment in particular brought to you by our friends at Equinedge, AI technology for horse racing handicappers. I love it. To me, it sits in the pocket. It gives you a ton of actionable information at your fingertips, but it doesn't do all the work for you. There's still a thought process, and you can incorporate it into your handicapping. Basically, you can let it do as much of the handicapping as you want it to do, and you're going to get a boost in your play because there's great proprietary metrics like the SOR, strength of race, and the GSR, genetic strength rating. That one in particular, I have found absolutely invaluable to do pedigree work at a glance. There's also betting tools in there to help you construct your wagers as well. Some great stories of Equinedge users scoring out using their betting tool, including from our own Matt Vagvolgi. Equinedge.com is the website, and you can use it for free for a month if you use our promo code FREEMONEY, or you can go directly to Equinedge.com/free-money. Remember, there's only one E in the middle of Equinedge. That E does double duty in both words. Equinedge.com/free-money. Next up in the show, coverage of Woodbine on this Saturday, September 11th. We're here to talk about the late pick 4, but we'd be remiss to not make a mention of race number 3 because we've got the Grade 3 Seagram Cup with Mighty Heart, last year's Queen's Plate winner, nearly Triple Crown winner up there in Canada, returning to the races. Very excited to see what our guests have to say about this one. And to talk about all these races with me, we have from Equinedge, Scotty McKeever.
What's going on, guys?
And then we also have from InTheMoneyPodcast.com. You can just give the thumbs up if you're happy they're on mute. No, he's off mute now. He's Drew Coatney.
I'm quick on the draw.
Yeah, that was doing good. Better than JK, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm doing good today. And for the listeners and people viewing on YouTube, I'm going to be focused on my child half of the time here. We're playing a man down with our nanny being out on day 2 of childcare. So we're playing a balancing act here, and we're flexible here at.
That's always fun. That's always fun. Yeah, losing the childcare at the last minute when you're supposed to record. I know how that game goes. As parents, many cameos on these airwaves have demonstrated. Scotty, let's start with you, and I have an Equinedge question for you first and foremost, which is one of the things I like about the program is it seems to me like it helps a horse player be able to shift to an unfamiliar circuit a little bit more easily. We talked about this out at the NHC, how there were a lot of people using the tool out there. And then today, I know you look at Woodbine, but it feels like you're not really stepping outside of your comfort zone as much as you might be because you have the tool in your pocket, essentially.
Right. So the reason is you're not looking at statistics, you're looking at metrics, right? And these metrics kind of line up, and you can look at it from the race view, our race view, and you've got like the genetic strength rating, which we call GSR. You've got the Equinedge morning line, which you can compare to the odds makers morning line. You've got the win percentages right there. You've got the Scotty algorithms, which is the top 2 Scotty picks, and then the Scotty long shot algorithm. You've got the strength of race, which we call SOR. So you're looking at all this on just one page, and you're able to line up those metrics in seconds. And so it doesn't take a lot of time. Now, sometimes the metrics don't really line up towards one horse. And so when that happens, then you might have to go a little bit, delve a little bit deeper. You can go to what we call Handy View, which is our past performances. So, but I would say 70% of the time, you can just look at the race view and you can make a decision in seconds.
I mean, that sounds pretty good to me. Let's dive in. I already set it up. The Seagram Cup, Grade 3 action, race number 3. Drew, we're going to bring you in. You and I talked so much on these airwaves last year about Mighty Heart. What's going to happen in the Seagram Cup?
Yeah, I tried to get creative here, and there is just no way to get creative. I think Mighty Heart will be on the lead. I think no one's really going to be too big of a pressure, and even if it does get maybe shuffled back, we'll just kick on clear. Has been shown to be able to take his game anywhere, whether it's Churchill, Keeneland, running really good races there as well. So I'm going to guess this horse will be 1-9 on the day. If we can get 4-5, I'm taking that all day.
It's really interesting to see that Mighty Heart does appear on figures anyway to have improved as a 4-year-old. It's pretty cool when we see these horses who are stars as 3-year-olds train on. It looks like that's what's happened with Mighty Heart, who just went down a couple lengths last time on the dirt in West Virginia, and very impressive before that in the Dominion Day, and then also in that race at Churchill that I thought he didn't hit every right to be short and still won on his class. Mighty Heart, serious horse. Scotty, when you look at the Equinedge software, can you come up with any logical alternative to Mighty Heart, or is this a one-horse race?
No, I really like Tap It to Win, the 5-horse. It has an Equinedge morning line of 5-1 from a 10-1 from the odds maker. Has our top GSR of 81. Now Mighty Heart has an 80, but then there's a big drop down to 73 with the 1-horse Special Forces. So on GSR, genetic strength rating, the 4 and 5 are dominant in the race, and this is the first time that Tap It to Win is going the distance of 8.5 furlongs on the synthetic. It looks like Mark Casse has really thought highly of this horse, because this horse was actually the lukewarm favorite over Churchill Downs in a grade 1 race and didn't run a lick. Then drew the 10-horse in a non-grade stakes race, going 6 furlongs. Disappointed there. And last race was in a grade 2 on the turf. I mean, so trying a bunch of different things. I think the horse has got to be confused by now, but I have a feeling this is a very talented horse. And the GSR jumps from last race 70 to this race 81. Drops in strength of race, meaning it's a lot easier competition in this grade 3 race than it was in the grade 2 race last time out. And the horse only lost by 5 3/4 lengths. So I have a feeling that Tap It to Win is going to run a good race. But Mighty Heart is 50% on the win percentages, 4 to 5 on the Equinedge morning line, 2 for 2 at the surface and distance of 8.5 on the synthetic. Has a GSR of 80, which is just 1 point below Tap It to Win the 5. So I'm thinking it's those 2 horses.
Feels like an exacta, maybe a short-priced exacta, but one that you might be able, based on what we're hearing from you two, to play with some confidence. Let's move on to our originally scheduled programming, the late pick 4 on this Saturday, September 11th, Woodbine card, and we're in stakes action once again. 5 furlongs on the inner turf for the Vice Regent Stakes, 3 and up with 150,000 in the pot. Drew, it looks like you're in a good spot to speak. Let's go to you.
Yeah, I think Forest Fortune's going to get an even better setup than last time. Seems to be like the light bulb went off for this 4-year-old on the inner, and I just think maybe found the calling on this inner turf course here. I think City Boy is going to be a bit over bet. They'll see Silent Poet's name, Admiralty Pier, and say, oh, this one ran a great one. But I think being faced with the inner turns doesn't seem to like to run a fast figure over those. And we've already had 2 other horses beat this one in this event on the inner. So I'm fading City Boy. I'm going to run a lot of my money through the number 8, Forester's Fortune.
Scotty, how do you see it? Are you with Forester's Fortune or somebody else in this spot?
Well, Forester's Fortune is lightly raced, ran a really good race, but did draw the 4-hole, got some speed up front, and finished. Now draws the 8-hole. So I'm a little worried about that in the post. But, I mean, this horse can definitely win for sure. But I'm going to play against just from the post position today in the trip. I don't think there's a ton of speed in here. Believe it or not, Celebratory, the 2-horse, could go gate to wire. This horse is very fast and ran on that 8-1 race and dueled. And I think that this one might go gate to wire. But the horse to beat is the 6-horse, Not So Quiet. Has a 37% chance of winning. Top Scotty pick algorithm. 3-2 on the Equinedge morning line, has a very good GSR. And then City Boy didn't know what to deal with, because when you have a horse like City Boy that's tactical, and the horse was in a grade 1 last time out, throw that race out. I mean, the horse has got 3 second-place finishes in a row, facing similar horses, even better horses in that grade 2 in the Arctic. So I think the 7 is there too, but the 7 is one of those anomalies that just, I don't know. Is the horse ever going to get there? I don't know. But in my pick 4, I'm using the 2, 6, and 7.
Okay, let's move on to race number 8, the second race in this late pick 4 sequence. Allowance types going 1 1/16 on the synth. Scotty, we're going to keep it with you.
Well, I think the horse to beat is going to be Frosted Over. And, this horse is an interesting from the perspective of, it was in a grade 3 last time out, and they're hard to judge, but because that's a lot tougher than this non-winners are 1. The horse broke its maiden by 4 3/4 lengths in its first start. 2 back, and then was blocked last time out, only losing by 4 1/4 lengths against a much tougher group that's what's lined in here. So I think Frosted Over is the horse to beat. Super Watson's interesting as well. This horse got a second-place finish last time out. I didn't like that the horse was so far back early on, going 8.5 furlongs on the synthetic. Same conditions as today, and then got the lead and then ended up losing the race. And then when it did win a race, it usually doesn't win by much. So, but I think this horse is very talented, needs a perfect trip. And then the other horse I'm going to throw in there as finalist, the 7-horse. This horse is 7-2 on the Equinedge morning line, 10-1 on the morning line, is the Scotty Longshot algorithm as well. In those scenarios, when that happens, these horses are usually very dangerous. So I would not leave out finalist at 10-1 on the morning line.
We've talked about that before, when the algorithms line up that's really when it makes sense to make a play. And we've talked to other very successful contest players based on the models they use, and it's the same type of thing. We talked to Paul Sherman about the software he uses, and when the software horse matches up with the horse that looks good on Thorograph, well, that's when he's want to go in. And it can be the very same thing with the Equinedge software. Drew, Scotty gave us 3 ideas of who might win this 8th race that he's going to want to use in his doubles and other exotic bets. Where are you going to land?
I love finalists. Top pick for me. I think continues to get just bad luck. Had a great 2-move effort last out, early dueling, dropped back to take 2 wide, then made another good move around the far turn only to flatten out. And then had a really odd race over the yielding surface going the 1 turn, 8.5 furlongs with oddly ridden down the lane, stalking the pace as they tip for home. An eventual winner blows by as this horse is just wrapped up down the stretch. So I think number 7 finalist, if we get anything of, I would say 6-1, we'll like that. Sorry for the keys jingling here.
No, all good. Don't worry about it. We're again, the human and animal interruptions are a feature, not a bug on this show. Never apologize.
So I'm going with the number 7 an A, and also number 1 frosted over as an A. I think for all the reasons Scotty mentioned as well, is really the horse to beat in here, and I doubt we'll see 2-1. But if that price drifts up, that might be a good price for us to stick in the win pool. And then the number 3 Bodie's Tipsy. I just think overall got a couple bad trips, first time Lasix here, and could continue to improve. I think this 3-year-old is the big question mark in this group and will be my backup for this. So 7-1 with a backup of the 3 in this race.
Okay, we'll list the 3 as a B, and we'll move along to our 9th race. We go to the turf, 3 and up fillies and mares allowance types. Once again, this configuration, 5 furlongs on the inner turf. Drew, I'm throwing the ball right back in your direction.
Yeah, let's do it. I have the number 1, Take It Easy on top. Best figures and has plenty of speed drawn to the outside, so should have a decent ground-saving trip to sit that pocket and have plenty left to go by this group that is a little lackluster in the allowance ranks here. And then I'll use also as a backup Magical Soul, the number 4, could easily get away and just get loose. The figures fit and still has some pretty good upside left as a 3-year-old coming in off of second off the layoff effort here. So I'm going with the 1 and a backup of the 4 in this race.
Number 1, Take It Easy. Nice little hunch play for Eagles fans as well. Scotty McKeever, how do you see this one?
Well, the 1, Take It Easy is the horse to beat. I would imagine. I mean, throughout the last race was pinched back at the start against tougher horses and was lined up in here, actually coming back at the same surface and distance. So it does draw the rail, which isn't great, but the horse has won from the rail before, so that shouldn't be a problem. The horse has speed. The horse is tactical if it needs to be. So just throughout that last race, the horse is going to be forwardly placed. 1 is going to be tough. The 3-horse Road to Romance is 5-2 on the morning line, the odds makers morning line, but 9-5 on the Equinedge morning line. Just that alone, you have to throw the horse in the race. Also, that last race over at Gulfstream Park, that was much, much tougher. That was lined up in here. The horse is fast. I'm not sure whether the horse's best is on the lead or if it even needs the lead, and it might. So I think the horse is going to be sent. So could go gate to wire for Mark Cassie. And then the 8-horse Ricasta is an interesting one that has our top GSR, is 1 for 1 at the surface and distance. Now, it was a weaker group in breaking its maiden, but it liked it. The GSR, what's interesting is the genetic strength rate in the GSR in its first lifetime, in her first time lifetime race was a 48. And it showed some speed against tougher horses. But then on the turf, so this horse has been bred for turf, went up to a 67, so 19 points higher and then wins the race. So now that was an easier SOR as well. So, it's 10-1 on the morning line. What's interesting is the horse is 9-2 on the Equinedge morning line. It has the top GSR, is the Scotty long shot, but get this, 37% top win percentage as well. So Ricasta is a very interesting horse to use as well. So I'm using 3 horses, the 1, 3, and 8.
1, 3, and 8 for Scotty there. Agreement on Take It Easy and some clever prices as well. Race number 10 is 3 and up filly and mare maidens going 6.5 on the turf. Scotty, how are we going to get paid?
By spreading, because this is
a fair answer.
Yeah, it's just a wide open race. Let me just start off with saying that I'm using the 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Whoa. That's we're getting close to the throwing up the old all ball.
I know. Now I will say this: if if you don't have, my ticket's $43.20, but if you don't, because we're talking about a 20-cent denomination here in this pick 4. But if you need to just single a horse here, I would just say it could be the 9 horse Know How. And this horse got a 4th place finish last time out. Sometimes when you don't know why, you're looking at it and they all look the same, then you really look at the metrics. And when you look at the metrics, the top Scotty pick, lukewarm top win percentage, 5-2 on the Equinedge morning line. But it's notable, the next closest was the 5 horse Melrose Star at 4-1, and then it just goes way up to 9-1. So, if you look at the Equinedge morning line, maybe the 5 and 9.
All right, so we'll put those on top of that big spread for you, and we'll leave the other ones in, that full spread being 9-5, 1, 2, 4, 7, 8, 10. That it is actually leaving out 4 horses, so it's not quite as spready as the all ball. But Drew Coatney, I'll ask you: do you have a little more clarity in this, or do you agree that it's a spread and hope situation?
Yeah, I have 2 horses. I'm going to try and get skinny here. And I think in the prior leg, just from a conservation of capital standpoint, to try and get alive to this leg, I could easily see myself using all in the prior leg. So let's clarify that up front.
In other words, like as backups.
Exactly.
You might have another one run of tickets with all to get to the horses you like here.
Yeah. So I love Gospel Hill in this spot. There's going to be very limited pace pressure. 2 back after the long layoff. Looked to jump a shadow around the turn, and on the inner just kind of was lugging out a little bit. And the jockey wrapped up the horse, as was like in the lead down the lane. I think they knew, hey, let's lose the battle to win the war here. So if turns are the issue on those tight inner turf courts, we're getting back out to the outer, and I really love that. The wash off the effort last time will cross a line through it. And this 3-year-old might be poised to take a great big step, finding a grinder style of running that this one likes. And then also we'll use the number 7, Careless Heiress. I think it just cuts back in distance and might be able to get up into the piece, more for the verticals and the exotics than actual pick 4 bets here. But I think number 7, Careless Heiress at 15-1 is an interesting horse. And then you go, like Scotty said, I go through Know How, Feniolia, Melrose Star. All of those horses become very logical and very hard to decipher between any of them. And I'm going to just fade them and stick to those 2, the number 1 and the number 7 is maybe a C at best.
Okay, 1 and 7 for Drew. I'm going to list it as, since it's only 2 runners, I'm going to list the A as the 1 is your A and the 7 is your B in that spot, just for the official note-taking purposes for our In the Money Plus people. Drew, we're going to let you, Scotty, I'm going to hang on to you for a second. Drew, we're going to let you go. To tell Emmett good work. We enjoyed the sonic landscape in the background. Much rather hear those nice cooing sounds than the screaming and hollering, though that's okay too when it happens on these airwaves. But to the family, Coatney, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Godspeed at Woodbine. And Scotty, you can hang around here for a second, because I did want to chat with you about your move back across country. How I mean, you mentioned being a little bit disoriented in terms of your time zones, but what's next? What do you have going on in terms of your schedule for the coming month, and where can we find more information? What else is going to be going on the Equinedge YouTube channel?
So I'm going to do a show tomorrow at noon Eastern time, and we're going to cover Kentucky Downs, Gulfstream Park, Laurel Park, cover those 3 tracks. I'm going to go back to the format of, playing with everybody, and we're just gambling race by race by race, and it's a lot of fun. Get back those booms on the show. The Del Mar show was fantastic. The meet was fantastic. Met a lot of new people and introduced Equinedge. The tournament, the NHC, was incredible. Met a lot of wonderful people, passionate horse players. But the shows are really continuing to teach people how to use Equinedge. And I think, that they've been important. That content, that community we're building has been great. We're going to, week by week, we're going to probably set a schedule of shows probably next week. But for now, I'm doing a show tomorrow on Saturday, and it's going to cover, like I said, Kentucky Downs, which has been fantastic. How have those turf races been, right? Just all these close finishes. The racing has been good. And I'll give you a note. You really need to be fit to win over there. First-time starters can win, but they've got to be much, much better. And you can actually put a note on those first-time starters that win for next time out, because if they win as a first-time starter, they're most likely going to come back and maybe even beat winners first time out, because you have to be fit with all those undulations. But I tell you what, they're doing a wonderful job. All of a sudden, Kentucky Downs has been this meet that, like everybody wants to be a part of. I mean, people are treating it like it's a Keeneland meet or a Del Mar meet. It's been great.
I'm glad you pointed that out. It really has been fun following, and it's been great to be able to work with them. And we're going to have more coverage. We're going to do a special show on the Sunday card, actually. So around here, we have something. You're pretty new around here still, Scotty, but around here on the network from the beginning, we've had something called the production meeting in the middle of the show, where we have a conversation that normal podcasts would have off of air, and we have it on air. But, I really want to talk to you about doing for YouTube an evergreen, sort of more of a product demo of Equinedge. Do you keep a file of races where you feel like the tool has been particularly effective? Like if we wanted to go back and show the strength of, one or the other algorithm, would you know, oh yeah, there was that race at Del Mar on August 14th we could pull up, or do you not keep historical data like that and you're doing it more in real time?
No, we have all that data. It's easy to run. With the programmers, I mean, they're so busy just building new products and just day-to-day stuff, but it's easy to run. We can run that stuff. Where we are seeing, I mean, the product is great on everything, and all the metrics are consistent. I would say, especially for everybody. I was going to say new people, but that's not necessarily true. The GSR is amazing with first-time starters or horses doing something for the first time, especially going a mile or longer on the turf. It's just incredible, right? So, and it almost works like a win percentage, Peter. It's just insane. It's so accurate. It's really good. I will tell you this. I would lean on the turf going 2 turns. I will lean on the GSR more than I will the win percentages or any other algorithm.
That's interesting. Well, I'd love to find some historical examples and do like a little half-hour evergreen show with you. We'll button it up off air. But I think it would help people because I've gotten some questions more specifically about how to use it. And I think especially if we can really show the right examples, we can show people the power of Equinedge. Scotty, thank you so much for your time and being with us on the show today. Let's get something together real soon.
Sounds good. Thank you, Peter.
Want to remind folks, we got 2 more weeks left in the Horse Player Happy Hour Tour before we get to our playoffs, and it's pretty cool stuff. If you finish in the top 2 of one of these last 2 tournaments, you will qualify for our playoffs. If you've been playing all along and you're one of the top tour finishers for the year, you will also get into our playoffs. That's going to be 80 players competing for a Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge seat. We also have the overall prize, which is on offer. Right now, David Browning is leading Michael Adolphson, trying to chase him down. It's not going to be easy, but that's going to be fun. And then during these playoffs, we're going to hopefully be able to have regular qualifiers for the BCBC along the way. All the money goes to Thoroughbred Aftercare, the TAA, and the TRF. The games usually go live on Tuesday. You can sign up at horseplayers.com. These next 2 weeks, it's going to cost just $20 to play, and then it'll be bigger money as we get through the playoffs. We do live streams, Breeders' Cup social media, 5 o'clock. It's been on Thursdays. Typically goes an hour 15, an hour and a half. Join me and Matt Bernier, and hopefully that other guy you see on the screen, Jonathan Kinchin. By the way, how funny are these photos that basically look nothing like us over on the Breeders' Cup screen? We've got Matt Bernier. It looks like a picture from 7 years ago, a pre-Afro JK, or maybe more accurately, between Afro JK, and me 30 pounds lighter. Anyway, got to get back to look like that picture in the center there on breederscup.com. But anyway, that notwithstanding, we want you to join us. We want you to play. The Breeders' Cup is the sponsor for Horse Player Happy Hour. Check it out. Sign up to play on Tuesdays, horseplayers.com. Next up on the show, we have a special feature, something I'm really excited to do, covering the Win and You're In action in Ireland this weekend, Irish Champions Weekend, loads of good racing. You should definitely be waking up in the morning and turning on your TV or putting on your ADW and watching what's going on there. We're going to get some major clues for the Breeders' Cup, and we're going to have some fantastic racing as well. Great to get a jump on your international form study. One of the things a lot of American horse players find the most challenging when it comes to the Breeders' Cup, but I actually love it and think you can get an edge knowing what's going on as far as these European invaders go. And we've got a good team together to chat about it with you. We'll start with the woman diagonally across the screen from me. You know her from her podcast on our network, Talk Racing to Me. You saw her on the Breeders' Cup broadcast last year, helping out with the international runners. Naomi Tucker, how are things?
Very well, Pete. I'm actually sitting here in the Laurel Park grandstand, so a very sort of appropriate location to talk racing, right?
I love it. I love it. I was wondering if that's where you were. And then in the quadrant directly above you, we have a man who's done a ton of writing about international stuff and has done some videos for us in the past, specifically covering this very type of thing, European races with an eye towards the Breeders' Cup. From In the Money Media, Alex Sauceville. How are things?
Things are good, Pete. So I don't know if Louisville Panera bread is exactly the same as the Laurel Grandstand, but either way, it's going to work.
As much work as you've done for us from various Panera breads across the country, I think you're giving me a new sponsorship idea, Alex.
I got a lot of rewards. Let's put it that way.
And then in the quadrant below me, a man whose work you've read as part of the Breeders' Cup content team, and you've seen him on Twitter at Adolphson Racing, Michael Adolphson. How are you, my friend?
Doing well. I'm here in Dubai right now, getting ready to fly to Ireland in the early morning.
Oh, fantastic! So you'll be on hand. Will you be in an official capacity or enjoying more as a racing fan?
I think both. I'll be doing some social help on social media with the Breeders' Cup and covering some of that, and then. When the other races and the undercard is pretty phenomenal, I'm going to be enjoying that as a fan.
That's fantastic. A good division of activities. Well, Michael, you're new to the airwaves, so we're going to start with you to get your thoughts, maybe a little bit of an overview of the field, and then we'll come back at the end when we're talking about this race on Saturday at Leopardstown. It's the Champions Juvenile Stakes. What do you think about the strength of this field as a whole that runs 10 deep?
It usually kind of takes a back seat to the national because that is the Group 1 the following day. But it is a furlong farther. You're going to see horses in here who are looking to go farther distances in the long run, or some that are a little bit later blooming for the yards, such as, for Ballydoyle, for Joseph O'Brien, for Jared Lyons, etc. So I think it's a fairly strong field, but more than that, it's a very promising field.
And contention runs pretty deep, it sounds like, for you in this race.
Yes. It took me a while to decide who to there were 5 horses I was circling around until I finally landed on one. But yeah, Maritime Wings and Absolute Ruler look like your leaders here. And then you have horses like Buckaroo and Stone Age coming out of the same race at Galway who look very strong.
Good stuff. We'll come back to you for your selection on this race in a minute. Alex, we'll send it up to you. From a sporting point of view, who are you most looking forward to see run in this juvenile stakes?
This race has really been an interesting one, especially you've seen a lot of horses come out of this and end up having very international campaigns. And we just saw last year's winner Cadillac over here in the States. We've seen Moygler travel, did God knows how many countries. I've been interested. There's been a few horses. Maritime Wings is obviously a really interesting one. It depends on how good you think Point Lonsdale is, and we'll see that obviously this weekend as well. Maritime Wings was beat twice by Point Lonsdale and beaten pretty comfortably, but will be a favorite here and probably a deserving favorite. Absolute Ruler's another one that's really interesting to me. Obviously bred very well, being out of Together Forever, who was a horse that won going a mile at the distance as a 2-year-old, as well as winning over course and distance.
Naomi, tell us your overview of this year's Champion Juvenile Stakes.
Look, as usual, there's a lot of talented individuals in here, and that actually makes it a lot of fun from a handicapping point of view, because you don't really know how these 2-year-olds are going to take that next step forward, as well as the added distance for the majority of the field is a bit of a question mark. I think that you guys touched upon Maritime Wings. He's a horse that I'm very much looking forward to see. I do wonder if the extra furlong is going to help him, but I definitely look forward to him. And certainly a couple of others that just kind of took my interest. I have a little bit of interest in Houth. I think he's 20-1 right now, just because I think that he's the one that showed that the mile is absolutely right up his alley.
All right. Well, now is when the rubber meets the road, talking about these Breeders' Cup winning your in races in Ireland, starting off with the Champion Juvenile Stakes. Naomi, we're going to go to you. You mentioned a couple of runners of interest in this field. It's time to make your final answer. Who's going to win?
Oh, I feel like I don't want to be a chalk-eating weasel, as you guys always say. So I really like Maritime Wings, but I don't know if the extra distance is going to help him. or hurt him. I'm kind of thinking maybe it's not going to be in his favor. So I actually would love to try and get a price play home. I mentioned House, love him at 20-1, even just for maybe showing purposes. This is also who loves the mile. I don't think he has the speed for 7 furlongs. He, of course, needs to find a bit of improvement. But if you look at that Racing Post figure from his race over the mile, that's a triple-digit figure that really does stack up in this field. Or I also had a quick look at Once Upon a River for Jer Lyons, who made all at Roscommon last time out with a decent figure. And what I loved about him is that he cornered incredibly well at high speed. Now, when you're looking at Leopardstown, we know that there's going to be a left-handed bend coming up. So it always pays off to look at a horse that at least can carry their speed around the turns.
Alex, how about you? A final answer selection in this race?
Well, actually, Naomi just touched on it. So there was a few that interested me in the field, but Once Upon a River, I was just very impressed by that win at Roscommon. I won't rehash what Naomi said, but I don't think going up to the mile will be that much of a problem, and honestly could really benefit.
Michael, we've got just 20 seconds or so left in the segment. Would love to get your final answer. You said you had a short list of 5. Who ended up on top?
Stone Age. I think he's coming in at an excellent price at 10-1. He has speed. You need positional speed at Leopardstown. It's a quirky course, and you have to be near the front. And he's coming out of a very, very good novice that looks much better when you watch the replay than it does on paper. He should move forward. He's bred to run extremely well.
Great stuff. There you have it from In the Money Media and the Breeders' Cup. Let's move on to our next of these win and you're in races at Ireland in Ireland on Saturday. It's the very next race. It's the Coolmore America Justify Matron Stakes. And Michael, we'll start with you again with a little bit of an overview of the field. Maybe I'll ask it this way: are you with Mother Earth or against her?
At 3-2, I'm against her. There's no way. The race runs through her. There's no doubt about that. She's all class. She's a classic winner. She comes out of a Group 1 win that she deserved over tricky ground in France. I think she's had a tough campaign, and she's definitely vulnerable.
Alex, how about you? We'll just ask the same question for our first go-around with Mother Earth, and then we'll come back around the horn for final selections. But where are you with Mother Earth in this spot?
I'm in the same way with Mike on that one. The price is too short, obviously deserving favorite, but there's too many horses in this field that have been progressing, winning at a little bit of a lower level, looking to step up. There's just too much ability where somebody's going to be able to jump up and I think take her on.
All right, okay, we'll come back to you to figure out your idea of who that might be. What about you, Naomi? Any love for Mother Earth, a filly I've really liked for a long time?
I am going to go all the way with Mother Earth. I am in love with her like you are, Pete. I've loved her ever since she was second at Keeneland in the Juvenile Turf fillies, because she kind of got me a little paycheck home there with On Pro. So I've loved her ever since. And she's done nothing but improve and show us her talent ever since. I mean, she had a small break after that. Then second in the Falmouth behind Snowland. Third in the Coronation is all behind Alcohol Free. Those fillies have then stepped up. Alcohol Free won the Sussex. This is the quality filly in the field. I get that the guys are saying, the price is going to be very short. Yeah, I agree. I don't love the price, but I just don't see anyone as talented or as classy as her in here.
Let's now give our final answers on this Coolmore America Justify Matron Stakes win, and you're in action for the Breeders' Cup. Naomi Tucker, you've already tipped your hand, but we'll let you say it officially now. Who's your idea of the winner?
Yeah, officially Mother Earth. I just can't look past her in this spot. And I'm a little bit sentimental about her. I love her.
Alex, let's head it up to you. You've indicated that you're going to have your arrow pointing in another direction. Who will it land on?
So I have 2 horses that are a bit of prices that I like, that I wasn't thrilled with their recent efforts, but moving back a little bit, and there's some factors that'll help them. One is Epona Plays, the 3, about 11-1 currently on the market. This horse is getting back to the mile distance, which I think will make a major difference. And the other one is Empress Josephine, who's been extremely disappointing in the last 2 starts, but gets back to the Curragh, gets back to the mile, a winner of the Irish 1000 Guineas. They're both prices, but I think they will improve getting back and have a good shot at beating Mother Earth.
Clever ideas there. Michael, where do you land in the end?
I feel like Champions Elise is had a tougher season this year than last year. She's defending her title here. I think she's very live. I think she's going to come back to form. She loves the ground. She loves the track. And even though she came in with 3 or 4 wins last year on a skid, this year she comes in after a decent second place finish. I feel like she's sitting on a top race, and Johnny Murtaugh in those saddles of Philly and those famed Teruya Yoshida colors, she's ready to go.
Good stuff.
She's
There
12
you
to
have
1.
it. And you get a price. Better yet, there you have it for our views on the this Breeders' Cup win, and you're in action in the Coolmore America Justify Matron Stakes. Now we move on to the big one, and what a big one it is. I mean, just super exciting from a sporting point of view. We'll talk about if it's as exciting from a gambling point of view. We're talking about a cracker in the Irish Champion Stakes on Saturday. Breeders' Cup win, and you're in action here. We're going to shake up the order. Alex, from a sporting point of view, how important of a race is this?
It's another one of those races that we've seen occasionally in the European calendar where it ends up a small field, but it ends up as talented a field as you're going to find. I mean, we saw this race last year with Magical and Gaiath, and it was an absolute, it was one of the best races of the year. And I mean, it's lined up for an unbelievable race from horses that we've just been waiting to see the best of.
That's an excellent assessment. We'll get to your thoughts on it as a gambling affair. Naomi, what do you think? What do you think the main storyline is heading into this year's Champion Stakes?
I mean, Alex already highlighted it as well. This is a 4-horse field, but absolutely loaded with quality. I mean, there's so many ways that you can kind of go depending on how you want to look at it. You have Poetic Flair, St. James Palace winner, came running in the Prix-Jacques Le Marat, and then you, of course, have St. Mark's Basilica, who is, quote-unquote, the horse to beat in this spot. I mean, what is there still left for him to win? The Coral Eclipse, Gold Cup, French Guineas, Dewhurst as a 2-year-old. I mean, incredible 3-year-old colt that just is really stamping himself as one of the best that we've seen of these 3-year-olds in Europe. And Tarnawa, the tough 5-year-old mare, you know, she can be a little bit moody. I did read that she dropped her rider before her last race at Leopardstown. But this is a terrific field, really one I'm looking forward to.
Let me ask you, Michael, for some historical perspective. You know, looking at ratings, St. Mark's Basilica really has a claim to be a special horse, even when viewed through the prism of his own stablemates over the course of the last few years. How good is this St. Mark's Basilica compared to some of the other Aidan O'Brien stars we've seen over the years?
I think he's up there. I'm not sure that 127 is that valid, to be honest. I think he's probably a little bit below that, but he was incredibly impressive at Sandown, so he deserves that. And maybe he caught Mishriff that day that wasn't quite Mishriff. So I feel like he's very vulnerable here, especially when you look at it through the scope of he missed the Juddmonte, and you never want to see a horse having to go to Plan B. He should have been coming into this race off of a possible Juddmonte win or a clash with Mishriff there. So his quality is, and he's done enough. His resume is great, but I've seen better.
I mean, I think that's a fair assessment. I have a question, another general question before we get down to our final answers portion of the show. Very simply put, and somebody may be tipping their hand as to who they're picking as they answer this question, but Poetic Flair, is the stamina going to be an issue for this one? Michael, we'll start with you.
No, he's a 3/4 to Glamorous Approach who won from 10 to 14 furlongs. His pedigree and is one thing, but also the 4-horse race really stacks it in his favor as well. I'm not going to say he's a selection on that in that regard, but I do say that, you know, watch the board with him if you're out doing the pari-mutuels, because if you can get 5-1 plus on him, he's who you should lay into. He's the bet.
Very interesting. 11-4. I'm seeing some 100-30, some 3-1 around. Alex or Naomi, do either of you have a particular view on Poetic Flair and the ability to see out the trip here?
Here, I'll go with that. I'm curious to me, it depends on how the race is going to be run. I agree with the small field. It shouldn't be as much of an issue. I don't think in the end it's going to be an issue, but it also depends on how they'll go. I mean, we've seen how good Poetic Flair is at the mile. Jump up, I don't think it's going to be a problem, but it will depend on how the race plays out.
Well, what Michael already said with breeding, I agree. Like I don't think it's going to be an issue whatsoever.
All right. Well, that's that takes a really interesting race and makes it all the more interesting as far as I'm concerned. And Michael makes a good point too. This is whirlpool in effect here, right? Is that correct, Michael?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, which means a lot of liquidity where you got to pay attention to what's going on with these prices. Just what the bookie prices are now is not necessarily going to be reflective of what this is going to be when we're looking at it on Saturday morning. So definitely take a look. And international viewers who have a chance to do a little bit of arbitrage, make sure you're looking at which market you want to be playing in, because if it is the world tote pool, which I believe it is, and there's going to be that kind of liquidity, those prices will be pretty stable, and you might be able to get pretty good action there if the tote tilts in one direction or another, presumably tilts in the direction of St. Mark's Basilica. But now it's time for the big question, folks, when it comes to this year's Irish Champion Stakes. Winning, you're in action for the Breeders' Cup. Naomi, who's going to win?
I'm going to side with Poetic Flair, hopefully at a bit of value. I think St. Mark's Basilica is a little bit vulnerable, and Poetic Flair, I loved what he showed in the pre-Jacques Le Maras. He came running to the wire so well. Like we said, I don't think the attitude furlongs is going to be a problem for him. And he's just a 3-year-old on the up and up. And hence, I'm going to say at a price, I think Poetic Flair would be quite some value in him.
Michael, I think you tipped your hand a little bit when we were speaking about the race earlier. Is it going to be 2 votes for Poetic Flair in this year's Irish Champion?
I actually think when it comes down to nuts and bolts in this race, I don't think he can answer Tarnawa or an in-form St. Mark's Basilica. I'm going with Tarnawa. People are going to question the 10 furlongs, but she's a Group 1, Group 2, and Group 3 winner over 10 furlongs. She's 4 out of 5 at the distance. She loves the course. The only worry is maybe 3 pounds more she's carrying than the 3-year-old boys. But I feel like if you look at her 2020 form cycle, she came out of a nice win in August, the starter campaign. She came into September. She went to the Prix Vermeil. She looked like a superstar there. I think she's going to look like a superstar here.
Alex, will we have 3 different votes for 3 different analysts in this 4-horse race, or are you with Michael or Naomi?
My mind has been spinning trying to make decisions the entire time, but I am going to stick with St. Mark's Basilica. I mean, if it wasn't for missing the Judmont, and if this was the regular prep, I would have said absolutely 100%. I am still a little weary, but I'm going to stay with it, and I'm absolutely going to watch the market and see where the value is.
There are our thoughts on the Irish Champion Stakes Breeders' Cup winning. You're in action this weekend at Leopardstown, and that concludes the 3 Saturday winning you're in races, but we've got more. We move over to the Curragh for Sunday action, and we're going to start off with the Derrynstown Stud Flying 5 Stakes, 14:55 local time, which I guess means 9:55 Eastern for this Group 1 race. And we've got another very interesting cast of characters in this spot. We'll do the general overview first, and Alex, we'll throw that to you. What do you think of the composition of this field?
It's a fantastic field. I mean, the amount of talent that we're seeing, whether it's been internationally, it's been this, I mean, just in this season, we saw what Winter Power did at York. We saw what Glass Slippers did at the Breeders' Cup last year and throughout the prep. There's a couple prices in here that are improving and have improved greatly throughout the season. I mean, this is a fantastic race, as it usually is.
Good stuff. Naomi, who are you most looking forward to see run?
I must admit, I'm very excited to see Glass Slippers back in here. Of course, again, that Breeders' Cup form, but she was 3rd on her seasonal appearance in the Qatar Stakes, and I just think she's going to come back on from that.
Another one you'd have licensed to have a little sentimental attachment to, is I think there was at least 3 podcasts in which you gave her out last year that we worked on together. And was I smart enough to listen? No, of course not.
Come on, Pete.
Michael, what are your thoughts generally on the composition of this field? Is it one where you've got a strong opinion, or is it another long short list type deal?
Sorry, we have a guest star.
Nice. We love animal interruptions on these shows. Say hello.
This is Olena. And speaking of ladies, I think this race is all about the ladies. It's Winter Power, Glass Slippers, and even if you're looking down to a price, Frenetic looks like a really live price.
All right, let's go and get our ideas of selections. We're talking about the Derrynstown Stud Flying 5 Stakes, winning you're in action for the Breeders' Cup. And it's time for those final answers. Michael, we'll start with you. You gave a good little short list there, but who's on the top?
I'm shooting for the stars here, 33-1 Frenetic. I feel like she's extremely quick. She's a Kodiak out of a Force Wildcat mare, which is speed on speed. She's coming into this race, not in super form, but I feel like she has excuses at Tipperary last time. She's going to bounce back to form. The flat 5 is going to be perfect for her. Winter Power might be vulnerable off of a huge performance at York, a course that she loves. And Glass Slippers, I feel like, might need the race as well. Being 5 years old and a year older, and plus 3-1 versus 33-1, I'm going to go with a massive price.
When you can add that extra digit in there, if you're torn, you usually go with the extra digit. Alex, how about you? Who will it be?
So it's Glass Slippers for me. I mean, last year, this race was third up in the prep. Obviously, we saw what she did throughout. It's going to be second up this time. However, her race last year in the King George Qatar Stakes, second up was fantastic, was second to Batash, and it led on to quite a season. I think it just continues to improve throughout the prep and has a really good run, whether it's going to Longchamp, going to Del Mar. But another horse I just to say that a horse that has improved incredibly this year and just continues to prove me right, wrong, pending how I've guessed, is Gustavus Weston, who loves the Curragh, loves the distance. Should be about 12-1 right now, or maybe a little more. I got to look back and see what's changed.
Couple of good price ideas. We're running a little short for this one, Naomi, but we need your final answer. Who's going to win?
Glass Slippers. I am a terrific fan of her, and I think she's going to do very well. But for price play, love Munista as well as Gustavus Weston. Of course, their form intertwines.
There you go. All right, let's move on to our final race of this segment that we're going to talk about, and we just move on a little bit later in the card here. One race later in the card for the Moygler Stud Stakes. And Naomi, we're going to throw it right back to you for your overview of this field.
Of course, the field seems to be headlined by Agartha. A lot of these runners in here have seen her a couple of times. Last time out in the Alpha Centauri Debutant Stakes, as well as before that. She seems to be sort of the one to look out for. But then you also have another 2-year-old that actually bested her on her debut, Homeless Songs, for Dermot Wealth. So definitely intriguing form lines in here, and possibly a couple of price plays that could jump up, because as I reiterated, you never really know what you have with these fast developing 2-year-olds.
Alex, what's your general thought on the top lines of the betting here? Are the favorites, you think, where you're going to end up, or is this a spot to get creative?
I think there's some price plays to be had here. Obviously, Agartha has been the class of the field as it's been U.S. Open time. Both Agartha and Point Lonsdale held serve on their reappearances back in Ireland. But I think there's going to be some value in this field as we go through it.
Michael, same question for you. Where do you think the winner is going to come from in terms of the range of the odds?
I think you can get some value in here. Agartha obviously is getting a lot of play. Homeless Songs is getting a lot of play right now. But if you want to look at 2 or 3 times the price, the discoveries, Wink, are there.
All right, here we go. I like it. Love the hand tipping. We're talking now about the Moygler Stud Stakes, our final of 5 Breeders' Cup win-in-your-in races in Ireland this weekend. Michael, we're going to send it back to you. Who's your idea of the winner?
I love Discovery's in here. She's a full sister to Alpha Centauri, who is an absolute superstar. She's a half sister to Alpine Star. I feel like her pedigree is going to come through, and looking at Irish Champions Weekend, somewhere along the card, Jessica Harrington's going to come up and bite you. It's going to happen. And I feel like at 9-1, I'm going to dip in.
I love this family, and I'm easily convinced. Naomi Tucker, how about you? Who do you think is going to win the Moygler Stud Stakes?
I am hoping for continuous improvement from a filly that we haven't seen in a while, but she did best Agartha on debut, Homeless Songs, for Dermot Wealth. They call him the magician. I'm going to stick with it.
See what he can pull up out of a hat in this race. Alex, Sauceville, what do you think? Who's going to win?
So I'm actually going to go into Sunset Shiraz. There's about 8-1 now in the market. I was impressed with how really stayed on last time out. Was a bit too far back. I'm looking for a closer trip today, but we've continued to see time test as a sire beginning to really progress. And I think this will be a good step for him to continue that.
There you have it. Our thoughts on the Moygler Stud Stakes. Thank you, team. That was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed going around the horn with you guys and getting a bunch of thoughts that are going to help out horse players on these races. Michael will be following you on Twitter, Adolphson Racing, at Adolphson Racing. We'll obviously tag you in the social media for this post. And Alex, will look forward to reading your work. I assume you're going to be doing write-ups of these races as well?
Yes, sir.
And Naomi, I saw that there's a new Talk Racing to Me out there, and looks like we're going to have more stuff coming down the pike, and we'll see you on the Maryland simulcast feed as well.
Absolutely. Today, live racing.
We can see it right there in the background. Thank you so much, guys. We'll be talking soon.
Thank you.
That's going to do it for this edition of the show, but we do have some thank yous. Let's start with our guests, Jack Jenkins, Howard Kravets, Drew Coatney, Scotty McKeever, Michael Adolphson, Alex Sausville, Naomi Tucker. I think I got them all. That was a great array of people on the show this week. Extremely grateful to them. Extremely grateful, I can't speak all of a sudden, to producer AJ for sitting in for producer Craig and doing a great job pushing all the right buttons on this show as well. Most of all, really want to thank all of you, the listeners and viewers, for making this show and all these shows we do here on the In the Money Media Network so much fun to do. We'll thank some sponsors as well. Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation, 10 Strike Racing, always root for the purple and black around here. Woodbine, I want to thank Woodbine, and I want to point you to the fact that we're going to be doing a ton of special Woodbine content next week. We've got this huge Woodbine Mile Day. We're going to have another roundtable, hopefully with the mismatched and yet totally dynamic duo of Doug McPherson and Jason Pertuando. Absolutely love their conflicting energies. What a fun hosting challenge that is to have those two going over the full card. Hoping we'll get Jim Lawson on to give us a little state of the meet update. Drew and I will be doing some final answers, full coverage of all the big stakes races, of course, and much more. You can check it all out at inthemoneypodcast.com. Love working with our friends at Woodbine, hoping to expand our coverage on into November and December with them as well, based on the success they're having. And hey, if you haven't checked out our harness pod yet, what are you waiting for? Edison Hatter doing an incredible job over on a show called First Over. Make sure you check that out as well. Edison is a bright talent and an excellent broadcaster. And if you like harness racing at all, there's some great opportunities with these big pools up at Mohawk, including this mandatory super high five payout that anybody really interested in gambling should probably be checking out. He'll have it covered on his show. Check it out on the main feed. First Over with Edison Hatter. This show's been a production of In the Money Media. Our business manager is Drew Coatney. Our chief creative officer is Jonathan Kinchin. I'm Peter Thomas Fornatel. May you win all your photos.
Just me and you.